Hi, I'm Lauren.
And I'm Callie.
And this is the Book Common Room podcast. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Book Common Room podcast. We're so happy you're here.
Mm-hmm.
We're so happy you stuck with us. We will be talking about Dorothy and William Wordsworth's poetry today, their prose. We're very excited to share our experience of the poems and the pieces that we like, and we would love to hear your experience and your quotes in the comments. Yes. I feel like I kind of want to start off with you and what was, and I guess let's go in the order you read them, because you said you read Dorothy first, right?
I read Dorothy's first. I started with Grasmere. Is that how you say that? A fragment?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of glad I did, because I feel like it got me in the setting of where we were at.
So we did, for Dorothy, we read from her journals, so the Grasmere fragment, Thoughts on My Sickbed, and then optionally was An Excursion Up Scawfell Pike. I put that in there because I feel like historically that's an important thing for us to know. But it was like, if you have time and you're interested, you should read that. I also linked my professor's work on it.
Oh.
Both, I have two professors that worked on it, and there was another that I personally don't know, but they did a ton of work around it because they take you on the historical context of it. They do the hike.
Oh, cool.
They show pictures of where they stayed. I mean, Dorothy did that at 46. I'm like, anyways. So that woman was fit.
Yeah.
And that's the other sad thing about today is there's this revolutionary aspect of eating whole foods and moving your body, but that's just day-to-day life for these people. Anyways, okay, so that was Dorothy's works, and then for William Wordsworth we did The Leech Gatherer, the 1807 version, and Michael, A Pastoral Poem, and that one was also an optional reading, but I just figured I'd give you some.
You're trying to keep going.
Yeah. Anyways, so back to you, Callie.
Yeah, so I started with Grasmere. And I feel like the kind of the main thing I got about it is a place is more than a location. It's like an embodiment of memories.
Girl, I literally had a class with the title of that.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
That's awesome.
But that's why I didn't want to say anything the last episode, was because people are going to figure this out on their own. And also, when you do, it's I don't know.
Yeah.
It's your own. Anyway, so I love that. I love that observation, because that is so true.
Because you could, when I was going through it, I'm like, you could read the surface level. There's a valley. It's green. There's a beautiful cottage.
Yeah.
There's trees.
Yeah.
And there's a lovely shed. And that's all the things. Mm-hmm. There are fields. And you could just stop there. But I love how she's I love that the house, this is kind of halfway 20-ish lines in.
Okay.
She says, I love that house because it is the very mountain's child. And that flipped my mindset for me. I was like, oh, okay. I'm not just reading about a place. I'm reading about a person's experience in a place and their thoughts and emotions. I'm like, oh, okay. So then I almost wanted to put myself in their head and look it through her eyes. Okay, what was she noticing?
Yeah.
And then it just became richer to me. And I loved it.
I love that so much. That's so true. It's kind of like our conversation about the Brontes, about how, the location impacts the writing, but then the writing impacts the location.
Yeah.
And that's the Lake District. The Lake District had such an influence on their writing, but now that writing has an influence on that. People go there because of the writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My favorite line, because is, they screen the cottage that I love. The sunshine pierces the roof. The tall pine trees tower above. Period. It was a lovely winter's day. I also, just to get into this, I like how she starts off. It was a lovely winter's day, a night of perilous storm. It's a lovely storm.
Yeah,
that's going through.
Nothing's going to put her in a bad mood.
No, I loved it. A day so mild, it might have seemed. And it's we were just talking about a storm, but now it's mild.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day. It was beautiful despite what the night looked like.
Oh, it was the best.
Yeah.
And then I just like how at the end, like, how could I but rejoice? It's like, how could you not rejoice in the beauty that's around you?
Yes.
And I loved it.
That's how it ends in her other one that we read too.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like she has that, like it's like a question, but it's rhetorical, right? Because
Mhm.
it's just like, how could I but rejoice?
Yes.
And nature, that's the other thing too, is like there is I don't know, it's there a conversation like the sublime in nature, and like there's this powerlessness in it, but there's a beauty at the same time. Oh, I love the romantics for what they do.
I know, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's very opposite to how I normally think about things too, usually.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. It's a good practice for me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I definitely want to pick Grayson's brain on this kind of writing, because he's been in a huge, like, and for listeners out there, Grayson's my husband. Some random dude. Her brother, maybe, like, because we're in like conversations of like Dorothy and Wordsworth or William. Is because he's been like reading like those like great books lists, and so he's been like shelling out like Faulkner and Hemingway, and
good for him.
I know, J.D. Salinger, like he's going through all these different books, and I really want him to read this and tell me what he thinks about it, because he hasn't really read poetry. And so I would be so curious of his experience of this too. Like, would he like it, or would he feel like it's too flowery? This reason why the next movement is the way it is. Yeah. Like, it needed to become more realist. Like, I don't know, but I truly love
that's
them.
so interesting, because I'm usually that person that wants the realist. Like, that's why
The
I
grim.
love American poets, because I love just like
the grittiness.
I just love it. But I think you can still not find it in the same way, but still kind of find it in the stuff. Like, it is still real. This was her life. This is how she viewed things, and that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I just grown to appreciate it.
I know. I think that's really
I appreciate
good.
both.
I think that's a good thing too. Is like there has to be an appreciation there, because it is worth reading. But even if it's not your cup of tea.
Yeah.
I love that. I love those observations. I felt the same way about this journal, or not this journal, but this writing, Grasmere, a fragment. Because it's a fragment in her writing, but it's a fragment of her memory.
Yeah.
You know, and I really love
Thoughts on my sick bed.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're okay moving to that.
Oh yeah,
one.
no, let's do it.
But so back to our conversations earlier. A lot of times Wordsworth was plagued with a lot of headaches too, especially, and we'll get to this in his writing, The Leech Gatherer, because writing was a joy to him, but slowly it became a commodity because his family relied on him writing. Yeah. And so once that started happening, I don't know if this is truth or not. I probably shouldn't just throw this out there, but I mean, we're not teachers. Yeah. This is just a book club. We went further than a normal book club usually goes. But he was getting headaches because his writing was becoming kind of a burden. Oh. And Dorothy would help him a lot with it. But then, like, it was interesting because they scholars talk about this, because, like, when one was having a headache, the other one was usually helping take care of the other person. Yeah. But then, so they would switch. Yeah. But she would have headaches all the time. Anyways, so I love this. And I love when she writes, let me find the part. Okay, here it's the last two stanzas. Oh my goodness. Their relationship is so cute. I just hope my children have a closeness like them. But she says, no prisoner in this lonely room. I saw, like she emphasized, I saw the green banks of the Wye, recalling the prophetic words, barred brother, friend from infancy, no need of motion or of strength or even the breathing air. I thought of nature's loveliest scenes, and with memory I was there. Like, that is so tender. And I write this, or I talk about this, because the Wye Valley, they toured the River Wye in Wales together. And in William Wordsworth, in William Wordsworth's poem, Tintern Abbey, which was written in 1798. Wow, I can't even read my own handwriting. This scribble, chicken scratch. This is a problem too. Is like in school, I would get like so into it, and then I'd be like, I don't even know what I said. It was something that really,
I thought I was so smart, but
it really tickled me, but I cannot remember what it was. Okay. Thy memory be as a dwelling place for all sweet sounds and harmonies. Oh, then, if solitude or fear or pain or grief should be thy portion, with what healing thoughts of tender joy wilt thou remember me and these my exhortations. So he is writing that to Dorothy. Like, when you are sad or when you are sick, remember this. Like, remember when we were here in the Wye Valley, or the river Wye. And so in her like observations and in her own writing and in her own memory, while she's lying sick, she's there. And I'm like, oh, it just gives me chills because I don't know why. That's just so tender to me, but it just is. And I think that's such a, like, she's not feeling good, but she's just feeling so much joy. And like in her memory, like she's there, like she's at this place with her brother. Anyways, so I love that part.
Well, it's like the stanza where she says, with some sad thoughts the works was done, unprompted and unbidden, but joy it brought to my hidden life, to consciousness no longer hidden.
Yeah.
Like, I love that I that specific stanza hit me, because I do feel like sometimes when you're going through hard things, no one really gets it.
Yeah.
But you, because you're the only one that's in your head.
Yeah.
But I do feel like writing is a way to really, like, connect to someone else.
Yeah.
And reading is a way to connect to someone else and
Yes.
getting that out there. And
because
like,
you're in their mind too.
Yeah. And even the stanza before is that when loving friends and offering brought the first flowers of the year. And she capitalized friends. So I don't know if she's actually talking about a person.
Yeah, I think she is.
She is.
I
Okay.
think someone brought her flowers. I don't remember if it was her niece or like, but someone did. Yeah.
But that's it's honestly kind of a small thing. But she really like puts that in her heart. Cold from the precincts of our home, from nooks to memory dear. Like, that was something that she really, really like holds on to, and she's gonna find hope in even the small things. And I'm like, oh, okay, you're my hero.
I know, she really is. I'm like, I have to. I love the name. I've already loved the name Dorothy, but I'm like, that is, I don't know. She's just.
And then when you call him Dot for short, it's so cute.
That is so cute. That is so cute. Okay, well, you keep that, okay? Keep that on your hat. There's just, when sibling relationships like this just really touch me.
Yeah.
And they're real, and I just love their writing, and it's just a very vulnerable thing to be in her writing more for me than being in William's.
Yeah.
I think Williams can be very vulnerable.
Yeah.
I think the Leech Gatherer can be quite vulnerable, but there's just
100%.
There's just something so intimate about her writing. I think it doesn't have the performativity. That's why. I think that's what it is. And without it, it's so much more emotional for me as a reader. But okay, and then I didn't know if you wanted to talk about an excursion up Schofield Pike.
We can.
But I was going to drop a little tidbit of that if you wanted to. Tidbit on Schofield Pike. At age 46, Dorothy and her friend Mary Barker successfully climbed Schofield Pike. It's the highest peak in England. It's about 978 meters. Her manuscript excursion up Schofield Pike is the earliest surviving record of a woman achieving this. She thought nothing of walking dozens of miles a day. In 1803, she and her brother... I don't even need to say that. She and William and Samuel Taylor Coleridge embarked on a 663-mile walking tour of the Scottish Highlands, which that's what they, and she also toured the Alps in 1820 on foot. She like that was just normal. You just, anyways. So she thought nothing of the walking, but she clearly did in her writing. It was very impactful and very shaping of who she is. And like, not saying that women didn't hike before her, but this is like a record of it. Yeah. And like, And that wasn't a thing.
Mhm.
Like, that's just not a thing. Like, sports and like that just wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So, like this to this caliber. And so that's kind of an important thing to think about. And then the link that we gave you guys for the excerpt, or like her manuscript breaks down the hike
Mhm.
and like what she did. And it's a scary hike. Like, if it like you literally can get so lost. Like that part, I think they actually tried to go up at one point and they couldn't because
wow.
it got so misty they wouldn't know where they were.
Oh.
And so they had to come back.
Mhm.
And like I'm pretty sure, I don't know if both my professors did this, but I do know that my capstone professor, he did it, and it's like rainy, it's so windy, but it's beautiful when like
Yeah.
it like when it settles.
Mhm.
But it is can be very sketchy, like if you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, no, that's
And
fair.
even for people that know it, can get lost, and that can be scary.
Yeah.
So extreme sports, Dorothy Wordsworth.
Exactly.
So that's the only tidbit, and if you guys read it, it's really insightful and kind of she names the people that are in her life, and it's just fun. I don't know. If you're a historian, it's interesting.
You like that kind of stuff?
You like that kind of stuff. But let's move to William now. So we read The Leech Gatherer, and then also we have Michael, and both of them can be very emotional for me.
Mhm. Yeah, that's fair. I will
But-
confess, I didn't finish Michael.
That's okay. Michael's very long.
I think I got about halfway.
That's okay. We can
And
talk
then
about it.
the day I was reading it, and then I never went back. So I apologize. Bless you.
Thank you. That's okay. We're gonna talk about it because I think when I reread this, I had to break it up too.
Yeah.
So that's fair. Yeah. What were your thoughts on The Leech Gatherer? I think
Yes.
it was later titled Resolution Independence, but I
Mhm.
always just reference it as The Leech Gatherer.
I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So I read, I feel like I was fully in Dorothy's voice, and then I immediately went to William.
Yeah.
And it was a little shocking.
It is.
I don't know why I
There's a
thought it would have been
difference.
smooth, but I was like, oh, yeah, this is like totally
Poetry.
different. This is poetry.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, I would have read this in high school and hated it.
Yeah. That's how it would have been for me too.
But it only took a couple stanzas, and then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what's happening here.
Yeah.
We've thrown this picture up before because we've talked about romanticism a lot.
Yes.
But it's the Wanderer,
Wanderer.
painting. I
Mhm.
felt like he was just embodying that.
the sublime.
The sublime. But I loved the end. He's talking about the leech gatherer, and he's just like observing this man,
Mm-hmm.
this old man.
Mhm.
And then he starts getting like scared. So it's towards the end. My former thoughts returned, the fear that kills and hope that is unwilling to be fed, cold pain and labor and all freshly ills and mighty poets in their misery dead. Like that idea that as an artist you have to suffer. Like I feel
Yes.
like artists and suffering, they're always tied together.
Yes.
That's just always a thing.
Yeah.
I've actually thought about that a lot. Like, do I have to suffer to be an artist? But I feel like all good artists suffer. I don't know.
I think of Dostoevsky.
Yeah.
I'm like, the stuff he wrote because of the pain he lived, like
Mhm.
nobody could have written that but him.
No. Yes.
Oh.
But so I was like, that's just kind of a tidbit. But then he continues, perplexed and longing to be comforted, my question eagerly did I renew. How is it that you live, and what is it you do?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do think it's interesting that
He had to know.
he
who
had
this
to
guy was.
know. Like, he's looking at this guy who's doing a job with like no reward.
Yeah.
Like, you're going around and finding leeches. That sounds horrible.
Oh yeah, and a job that's like dying. Like
Yeah.
it's like yeah.
Well, because the old man is like, well, the leeches are getting less and less and less, so I have to travel farther and farther, and the job's dying itself.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, leeches are nasty.
I know. That's the other thing too.
Mhm.
They're bloodsuckers.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of symbolic in a
Mhm.
way. I don't know.
No, this is true. So I do think it's interesting that he sees someone who he assumes is also suffering, and is like, how do you do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll also admit, I didn't understand what the old man was saying for a little bit. I had to
Okay.
read it a couple times.
Okay.
Because he, with a smile, did then his words repeat, and said that, gathering leeches far and wide, he traveled, stirring thus about his feet. The waters of the pools where they abide, Once I could meet with them on every side, but they have dwindled long by slowly decay, yet still I preserve and find them where I may. So it's like, how do you live and what is it you do? It's like, oh, I wander and they're dying, but I keep going. I was like, okay, what kind of answer is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I persevere and find them where I may.
And I'm like, okay, how did that like impact, like why was that so impactful for the Wordsworth, if this is coming from Dorothy's journal?
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I ever really came up with an answer.
Yeah. I can talk about some of the context that I
Yeah.
found. Okay, so when I was doing research for this,
Mhm.
like 2 years ago, so it's not super fresh, but I was kind of revisiting it today because I was writing. I clearly was very affected by
Yes.
Levinas in
Yes.
college.
As you saw.
And as we have talked about,
Yes.
as I've like trying to put onto Substack still, but he affected me quite a lot.
Yes.
With his concept of otherness.
Yes.
And I was exploring that with Wordsworth, with the leech gatherer, and I had to figure out the context with her journal entry. And so this is what she said
Okay.
on October 3rd, 1800. And he does not first pen this experience till 3 years later.
Okay.
And it's not even published till like 1807, I think. And so, I mean, there had been a lot of time while he was working on this. So her original journal says, quote, "We met an old man almost double. His trade was to gather leeches, but now leeches are scarce, and he had not strength for it. He lived by begging," end quote. Dorothy further reports on the man's weather-beaten aspect in her journal. I didn't like write the whole thing in my essay, but she writes on his appearance being weather-beaten, his struggles to provide for his wife and his 10 children.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Louise.
And each member of his family was now dead, but one child.
Oh.
I know. And that one kid is a sailor of whom the leech gatherer had not heard from for many years. And so this poem omits many of these details. And it may be said to depict a different leech gatherer from her journal. A leech gatherer because this poem isn't really about the leech gatherer. It's about his wrestle with being an artist, being a poet, being like the tension between letting the pen drive you and driving the pen, I guess, because you need money.
Yeah.
You need to support. He wants his kids to be okay. He wants to support his wife on his writing, and so in a way, his poems are becoming like these leeches, in a way. I don't know.
I could see that.
I don't know. So anyways, his decision, he like chooses to immortalize this character he met. And not even character. That's like a real person that they met. Yeah. But it's clearly like his it's like almost imaginary relationship because they never talked to him. I don't think. Like they didn't have the same kind of dialogue he's having. They obviously had to know that he had 10 kids and that he was struggling. But I guess what his interpretation was that he just is. He's just existing and he's persevering but it's so interesting because the poem's resolution and independence. There's no resolution in that dialogue that you said. Like,
well, even afterwards, he's like, while he was talking thus, the lonely place, the old man's shape and speech all troubled me. It's like he gave him an answer, but it didn't really help him out.
It wasn't really an answer he was looking for.
In my mind's eye, I seem to see him pace and about the weary moors continually, wandering about alone and silently. While I these thoughts within myself pursued, he, having made a pause, the same discourse renewed. And soon with this he other matter blended, cheerfully uttered with demeanor kind, but stately in the main. And when he ended, I could have laughed myself to scorn to find in that decrepit man, so firm a mind. God, said I, be my help and stay secure. I'll think of the leech gatherer on the lonely moor. It's like, it's interesting that this idea of this guy who's just still going, even though it's hard.
Yeah.
did kind of giving him this like
Courage to keep
courage,
going.
like this imagery of this mind who is doing something that is horrible, but he's doing it because he needs to.
It's so interesting how he describes him too.
Yeah.
Like he describes him as withered, but at the
Mhm.
same time there's like a holy aspect of
Yeah.
him because he describes him having fire in his eyes,
Mhm.
kind of a thing. It's so interesting too because like you totally get what his concerns are and his worries because he like in the poem it says poets in our youth begin in gladness but thereof comes in the end despondency and madness.
Mhm.
And so and then he talks about Chatterton.
Mhm.
And he says, like, I thought of Chatterton, the marvelous boy, the sleepless soul that perished in its pride, of him who walked in glory and in joy behind his plow upon the mountain side. So basically, this we poets, like, he's bringing us into it. Like, we share the same ailment. And after he's, like, reflecting on that, on, like, the deaths of Thomas Chatterton, and as the footnote in my version,
Yeah.
back to this, it's the Oxford World's Classic version of William Wordsworth's major works. In the footnotes, he writes about Robert Burns as the one behind the plow. And so he's talking about, like, the narrator's mind is fixed on the fates of these poets and is wondering, like, is it inevitable for all poets to end the same? Like, Chatterton's suicide became a symbol of the poet whose creative gifts are at once a blessing and a destructive power, while Burns was thought to have hastened his early death through dissipation, leaving his wife and children without support. So those are like, he's like has this fear that like,
well, I feel like it's a romantics trend.
Yeah.
The romantics, they
destroyed themselves.
They destroyed themselves. They either committed suicide or they died early.
They had drug like over or like what's the word?
They'd like drink themselves.
Yeah,
basically.
They would be addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
And sometimes it wasn't necessarily their fault. It was like at the time doctors like were like, here, have some laudanum.
Yeah, literally, and alcohol.
Yeah. Like, which caused like that's Thomas de Quincey, right? And so, anyways, so there's like it's a genuine fear that he has here, and his own marriage was like this is right before Wordsworth got married too. Mm-hmm. So he's like, shoot.
What am I gonna do? Am I just gonna ruin myself?
Yeah. So he was like, anyways, so this narrator seeks this man out. And so when Wordsworth encountered the leash gatherer, like as Dorothy recorded, he was moved by his resilience and dignity despite his hardships. So I think I'm getting to the point where I can understand why he's like feeling this resolution of independence, even though he's like, I mean, like you said, it's like his answer wasn't like, oh, I find joy in the little things, kind of a thing. But
I worked hard and my family was successful.
Yeah, like he wasn't telling him what he wanted to hear. He was kind of just saying like, this is just my life. This is my existence. This is what I know.
I don't want to interrupt your thought.
Go ahead.
But I almost feel like when I was reading it, because even though like I couldn't really figure out what the man was trying to say to him.
Yeah.
I almost feel like I read it the first time and I was like, okay, what does that mean? And then I read it again. And to me, it almost feels like we're just all living our lives. So it's like, even though he's suffering in a different way, we still try to find, like, okay, you're suffering. How do you get through it? Because I'm suffering. And it, like, even though it's different situations, we're still, the emotion's the same. So how do you get through it? Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like he's just thinking of a man that's also going through hardship. So himself as a man who's going through hardship, he can also go through it.
Yes.
Type of a thing. Like, it's almost, which is a very romantic thing to think of as people, is like individuals, because they have separate experiences, but you guys are we're all in this together.
Yeah,
to quote High School Musical.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, the wisdom
of
East High. But it's so true. There's something, that's the other thing about poetry is like, I know it's not supposed to be a puzzle. It's like, it's supposed to be like an observation, like what do you notice? And I noticed the word choice.
Yeah.
Like there's something about the leash gatherer that causes the narrator to feel like he was sent for him. Because he says, he was from some far region sent to give me human strength and strong admonishment.
Yeah.
Like despite him being old and being in arduous circumstances, the old man maintains this sense of like purpose, and it compels the narrator to take note of like endurance and like his like human spirit. And so like the spoken words between the narrator and the leash gatherer are hardly the focus of the poem, because the narrator and the leash gatherer have two verbal exchanges that are similar to one another, and the narrator asks what the leash gatherer does for a living, and he answers him twice, and like in different ways. But the narrator is like far from the immediate conversation, because he's picturing what this leash gatherer does. And so like to me it would seem that Wordsworth's idea of like encountering another person, because I think that's another description of his lyrical ballads are encounter poems, because like on him and Dorothy's like walks is like he's encountering these people, and like in encountering the leech gatherer, at least in this poem, is more far-reaching than a brief hello, how are you, kind of a thing. But they require you, at least for Wordsworth, to linger long enough to be able to insert yourself into their shoes, kind of a thing. And maybe that's kind of selfish to do, but that's the way you connect, I feel like, is being able to find something you can relate to. And so I think that's something that has always stuck out to me in these kinds of poems, is that like he's reflecting himself in the leech gatherer, and he feels reflected by the leech gatherer in a way. So maybe that's also why he feels that resolution and independence, is even though like there's no answer to like being a poet, and like are you going to be able to survive it without going mad, and are you going to be able to retain some kind of dignity and provide for your family? Maybe there's no clear answer for that, but the only thing is like you just gotta keep going.
Yeah. I was reading one of my favorite authors, V.E. Schwab. She has a newsletter that she comes out with once a month, and I like reading them just because she's good at writing.
Yeah.
But she was taught. So her father passed away earlier this year, and she in this newsletter was just talking about how writing for her is like something that she has to do to live. Yeah. Now for money, kind of like how Wordsworth became, but before she had to do it. She needed the escape for like her mental health. Yeah. And it like that was like she had to write to live, basically. Yeah. But after her father died, she just couldn't. She started to hate writing. Whoa. And so she was just thinking about like, okay, why, what's the shift that's going on here? But I feel like the romantics go through that a lot. Like you get so like writing can become this like massive thing, because you have to be in your head and you have to be in tune with your emotions. And if you're like in her case, if she writes fantasy, she has to write these characters and become these different people. But how can you become someone else? Yeah. If you're going through this turmoil, I don't know. I feel like that's another beauty of writing is like being able to reflect like this. I think so. No, I don't know if that added anything.
No, it totally adds to that conversation. And I feel like we should segue into Michael. Yes. For people that have read it or haven't read it, we'll keep it kind of brief. When I read Michael, I was kind of thinking of the New Testament a little bit. Like of the prodigal son. Yeah. But like if he didn't come back. Oh. Kind of a thing. Interesting. I kind of have to like go through like, because sometimes when I read this poem, I'm like, I'm not exactly sure what the context is right now. Yeah. So I was like, this is what I think is happening. Essentially, Michael is the shepherd. He has a wife named Isabel, who isn't named for a long time. So for a long time, I didn't really know who she was. And they have a son named Luke, who's clearly his whole world. Luke is like Michael's whole world. And they have this beautiful land that has been cultivated for generations and has been only in his family. And it's finally his. And he wants to leave it to his son. And they, because of a relative that lives far away, which I'm assuming is like London, I think they name it later, they are in serious debt, and Michael has to help them. And Michael has nothing, and the only thing he could give this is the other thing I learned reading this again for the first time. Not the first time, but reading this again. There's a whole other argument you could have with Michael, because to get that relative like out of trouble, he would have to sell his land.
Oh.
Or parts of his land. And so instead what they do is they send Luke to go do an apprenticeship that was offered to him, and like through his work help pay off that debt, and then come home, and then and that was the whole thing. So like in the introduction of the poem, it talks about how there's a straggling heap of unhewn stones. And so it's like there's this person that comes across these stones. And the whole symbolism is that before Luke leaves, his dad, Michael, has him come and put a stone on it and say, we'll finish this together when you come back. And it's kind of like this more than a promise, like this deep promise with his dad that he's going to come back, and he's going to take the land, and that he won't fall away from what his upbringing was. And oh my gosh, I have to read this part. Because this is kind of like his talking to him before he leaves. So it goes, and thus the old man spake to him, quote, oh man, I might cry out now. Quote, my son, tomorrow thou wilt leave me. With full heart I look upon thee, for thou art the same that wert a promise to me ere thy birth, and all thy life has been my daily joy. I will relate to thee some little part of our two histories. 'Twill do thee good when thou art from me, even if I should speak of things thou canst not know of. After thou first camest into the world, as it befalls to newborn infants, thou didst sleep away 2 days, and blessings from thy father's tongue then fell upon thee. Day by day passed on, and still I loved thee with increasing love. Never to living ear came sweeter sounds than when I heard thee by our own fireside, first uttering, without words, a natural tune. When thou, a feeding babe, didst in thy joy sing at thy mother's breast, month followed month, and in the open fields my life was passed, and on the mountains else I think that thou hadst been brought up upon thy father's knees. But we were playmates, Luke. Among these hills, as well thou know'st, in us the old and young have played together, nor with me didst thou lack any pleasure which a boy can know. Luke had a manly heart, but at these words he sobbed aloud. The old man grasped his hand and said, nay, do not take it so. I see that these are things of which I need not speak. Even to the utmost I have been to thee a kind and good father, and herein I but repay a gift which I myself received at others' hands. So basically he's like, the legacy is this land that we've cultivated, and it's yours. Come back. Yeah. And that's kind of like the promise. And he doesn't. That's the tragedy of this poem, is he doesn't. And he's like, the dad is 84. And later he passes away, Isabel passes away, and the land goes into strangers' hands. That's the end of this poem. It's really tragic.
That's so sad.
I know. And so he doesn't end up coming back. And so it's just a sad tale. So this person like comes upon these unhewn stones and then tells the story of like Michael.
Oh, okay.
He just basically, it's like Michael is like, he's so portrayed close to nature that he's like nature himself in a way. And it's like this sad story of nature passing into strangers' lands. And there's this idea in it about us being stewards. And to me, at least, just being a good steward of nature, and not forgetting about it, and keeping a promise to it, and keeping a promise of taking care of it. It was kind of like something I got out of it. But there's also part of me was like maybe Michael could have kept the land if they didn't send Luke away. Yeah. Like maybe he had to sacrifice some of his son's inheritance to be able to keep him. So that's another thing that I was like thinking about when I was reading this. But it was fun. It was like clear. This is very like Wordsworth coded clearly. Like it's so like nature focused, and I just thought it was a beautiful story between a father and a son. Anyways, so I just was like, we need to talk about this. But
I mean, that's so relatable though, right?
I know.
I mean, not necessarily having a farm and your son bailing out on you.
Oh yeah.
You know, I've never gone through that.
Yeah.
But the whole like nature aspect of it all. I mean, not to talk about my trip to Japan, but
when I was in Japan.
But like I did all the touristy things, right?
Yeah.
But my favorite days and the ones I'll remember are when we went up. It was actually an accident. We weren't supposed to go to this place. I was directing us, and I directed us incorrectly.
Oh, dang it.
We were supposed to go to this like
That's a lot of pressure.
massive torii gate that had like a cool temple with it. And I ended up taking us too far. So we ended up doing a hike up this mountain, and we ended up at this like tiny little shrine. It was a little, I think it was an Inari shrine. And it ended up being all of our favorite day because the hike was short, but you were literally like engulfed in the forest.
Oh, I love
And there
that.
were tons of torii gates along the way, but they were really old. It wasn't like modern. There was no one around. We ran into one other group, but they were like serious hikers. They were walking and hiking all of the different trails you could do in that area. And I feel like it was one of those moments where I could like remember the beauty of nature, like getting out of the city and the hustle and bustle of it all. And then also like, I'm not Buddhist or anything like that.
Yeah.
But like I was touched by the religious aspect there too, like the Shinto shrine that was there. And like you go onto the mat and you like bow at the shrine and like you pray for I think I couldn't read it. There were like prayers above that you could have done. But I was just thinking like, oh, I was like in my heart, I'm like, okay, I'm grateful I'm here type of a thing. Like I'm grateful I could be in nature and this tiny little shrine that's got bugs everywhere.
Yeah.
But it was so nice to like get out and like be in it.
Yeah.
And not just look at pictures.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is what these poets are writing about.
Yeah. No, truly.
And like there was an old man there a monk there working, and who knows what his life story was.
Yeah.
But he hikes up every day and sweeps around and keeps it clean. Like that's his whole life.
Yeah. Or like I saw this video the other day, and it was like this girl that they stumbled into this restaurant in Japan. Talking about Japan again. And they weren't even like planning on going there. And but she was just like how this man like made us all cry at the end. And she was just saying that they fell into this restaurant and this guy was making them food, and he was the only one there. And it was like he was making them all food in front of them. And they were just watching him be so careful and like thoughtful in how he was preparing their food and telling them a story about how his friend passed away who owned the restaurant, and now the restaurant is with him. And he was just telling them the story and making food for them, and then had gifts for all of them.
Yeah.
And he gave them gifts and like folded these beautiful origamis for them. And they just watched it, and they were just crying.
Yeah.
And they were just saying how moved they were by this stranger who took good care of them. And there's just like this aspect in the romantic literature that just like it really like encourages me to be a good steward to people.
Yeah.
And to like nature. And it just makes me emotional.
Yeah.
Like people, man, like I hate this is getting so like mushy because I feel like it's so cringe.
We're the romantics. It's
I know.
Okay.
But I feel like it's a cringy thing because people always associate poetry to crying, I think.
Yeah.
Or to like, I don't know, but that's the whole point, right? But I just
you have to be
feel
vulnerable.
Like, yeah, there's definitely, and I just feel like William and Dorothy just have, and they both approach it so differently, but they just encourage me to be like a good steward and caretaker to the people you meet and to the and to the places that you find, like you did. Like you don't know what that guy's story is, and you don't know what this place is you've never been, but there's this feeling of like a sacredness to it, and like of
you could
like
just tell there was some sort of history.
Yeah.
Like who were the monks that toiled to make this path?
Yeah.
And put these stones in.
Yeah.
And build these torii gates.
Yes.
Like it, because there are tons of shrines you can go to in Japan, but usually the touristy ones are like these big corporates who have donated a shrine, a torii gate, and like, but this one specifically was so old. Like you could just tell someone loved it, and cared for it and put it in. I want to know their story.
I know you do, and then you have this sense of responsibility in a way where it's like you want to take care of it, or you have respect for it.
Yeah, like when
without them even asking for it. Yeah,
because when you get up. Because you've got the shrine, but to get up to it, you have to take your shoes off to stand on the mat. and then kneel down.
Yeah.
But I love that aspect of taking care of it. Like you take your shoes off,
Yeah.
so you're not going to get it dirty,
Mm-hmm.
and like you're respecting the area.
Oh, yeah. Anyways,
Yes.
poetry, guys. But I love that. I love that experience that you had.
Yeah.
I hope to have that one day in Japan, so
Oh,
I can have a
yes.
Japan story. But thank you guys so much for joining us. I am so curious what your thoughts were on this. I hope it was wholesome content for you.
Yeah, hopefully you can see the beauty in poetry if you've never
Yeah.
been much of a
fan before.
Yes.
I hope it touched you in a way. But I guess we need to introduce our reading for July, which is going to be Homer's Odyssey.
Okay, I'm going to be so honest. When we were like, okay, we have to do the Odyssey because the movie's coming out.
Yeah.
I purposefully didn't suggest it and waited for you to suggest it because I'm really scared.
Oh, yeah, me too. Me too.
And then when you were like, we should do it, I was like, okay.
We need to. But I also kind of want to
Or I
read.
think Grayson was like, you guys are going to do it, right? And I was like, yes.
Maybe. So, but I feel like I kind of
It'll be
need
good.
to. I feel like
It'll
I
be
need
good.
to get
Yes.
it out of my system.
Yes.
Not out, but like I need to get it in so I can get it out. Like,
I know. I think I'm just putting too much pressure on myself. And I'm like doubting my own ability. I don't know. Because
I think it really matters what translation you read, is what I've heard. And the translation I've tried to read before wasn't working.
Yeah.
So we're going to explore that a little bit and find the
Mhm.
one that we think is going to work the best for this podcast. And I do want to try the Iliad and the Aeneid, but I think we're going to focus on the Odyssey.
I don't, because I feel like I know the Iliad pretty well.
Yeah.
Because I studied that one in college, and I like the stories that are in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't know the Odyssey.
But I also
very
just want to
well.
be more informed going into the movie because people have so many arguments with the way it's being approached. And so far, Gray, when he's seen it, he was like, it looks very book accurate.
Oh, okay.
As far as the events and what happens. A lot of people are like, it's not accurate to the integrity of its characters or the integrity of who Homer was. Or like, they're like, it's Greek or it's Spartan. And like, there's just a lot of things that I don't know. And I just want to read it
that's
to be
where
more
the tricky,
informed.
like, is the book the author or not? Type of
Exactly.
thing.
And then that's the other thing is keyword adaptation.
Yeah.
And you gotta, yeah.
This is Nolan, right?
Yeah.
This is Nolan's translation of the Odyssey. That's what we're going to watch.
And he chose a very interesting translation that a lot
Yeah.
of people love and also hate. Because it's like, Dad's coming home. And everyone's like, could you just say father at least? you know?
Yeah.
And so people are like very intrigued
Mm-hmm.
and also like critical of that.
Does he
So-
write the scripts for his movies?
I think his brother helps a lot with it, but he does a lot of
Is he a
the
writer
writing.
and a director?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. I don't know about the Odyssey though. I don't know who helped him. I think he wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
But I know in a lot of his movies, his brother helped with stuff and his wife. So I don't know who are all the collaborators on this.
It's true. I feel like that would be cool to know. And then also who's editing it at the end. That'd be cool to figure too.
I don't know. That'd be good to know. We'll have to get into that in July.
Yes.
But that will be the book. And also the nice thing is, if you guys don't end up reading it, we're here talking about it. And so
Exactly.
then you can just be like, okay.
Crash course.
Crash
All right,
course.
got it.
Yeah, got it. So anyways, thank you guys for joining. We're excited to talk about the Odyssey next month. And we hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think in the comments.
Yes, we will see you next time.
Bye.